I think the biggest mistake that people make when they're training new hires or bringing a new hire on is that we're making assumptions about what they already know. Clear communication is critical when training new assisting staff because it ensures that everyone is aligned with and living out the office mission, setting clear expectations from the beginning, outlining the specific goals of the office, the responsibility of each staff member, and tasks that dental assistants are expected to demonstrate is very important. We want to make sure that we don't overwhelm trainees with too much information at once. We want to make sure that it is part of the learning process, and that's where we build and consistently grow our training opportunities. No matter how old you are, we all can learn something new.
Hey everyone, Kevin Henry, the founder of Dental Assistant Nation. So glad you joined us today. Been excited about this podcast for quite some time because we're going to tackle a really hot topic, and we're going to do that with Monica Sitake, CDA, EFDA, and all sorts of other stuff as well. And I'm so glad that you joined us today.
Thanks, Kevin. Sure. It's my pleasure to be with you today. So I've been in the dental profession for 35 years, and I graduated from a CODA accredited program and assisted for 20 years as a chairside dental assistant. I've worked in general dentistry, oral surgery, periodontics, and I've been in the teaching part of it for about 30 years.
Nice. Well, thank you for all you've done to touch this next generation and beyond. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
And so I know something that's near and dear to your heart, and I think it's a hot topic right now. Let's talk about communication with new team members and how we make sure it is crystal clear. So Monica, I'm just going to start with a big 30,000 foot view question here. What is the biggest mistake we're making whenever it comes to communicating with new team members?
I think the biggest mistake that people make when they're training new hires or bringing a new hire on is that we're making assumptions about what they already know. There are so many different requirements with the different states regarding dental assisting education or lack thereof that we have to be very clear when we're bringing new hires on about what their background is and where we need to begin.
So I've got to ask this question because we know the dentist is so often involved with the interview process, and so often maybe the assistants aren't, yet the assistants are the ones who end up maybe doing the training. So should the assistants tell the dentist what questions to ask, or how do we make sure that communication at the very start is really there?
Yeah, I'll get into the details about that later on, but I think having a new hire packet that everyone has input on those questions because the dentist is going to have a different perspective than the dental assistants, or even a lot of times the office manager is the one that's hiring them. And so I think it's really important maybe at a staff meeting to sit down and have a conversation about the important questions to ask during onboarding.
And I know some of those important questions include infection control and
Absolutely.
making sure. And I know that's very near and dear to your heart on a number of levels.
Right.
So let me just ask that question. How do we make sure we're asking the right questions and that somebody comes in with at least a basic knowledge of infection control?
Yeah, well, I'll just jump into, I have 9 or 10 tips for clear communication when we're onboarding our new dental assisting hires in our office. And it doesn't necessarily have to be just for dental assistants, but that is the demographic I'd like to speak to today. So first of all, clear communication is critical when training new assisting staff because it ensures that everyone is aligned with and living out the office mission. My good friend Andrew recently said that being on mission sets the focus for the organization and informs our behavior and actions. So first of all, like we talked about a minute ago, we want to assess their knowledge. We want to find out what they already know. Some new hires do have a background, an educational or experience in another office, and so they may be familiar with the terminology. If they're hired without any kind of dental background or education, you'll want to provide them with some basic terminology resources. I think also setting clear expectations from the beginning, outlining the specific goals of the office, the responsibility of each staff member, and tasks that dental assistants are expected to demonstrate is very important. We want to be clear about timelines, especially with the onboarding process. If they're set to take little trainings, video trainings and stuff, we want to make sure that we set the tone for completion at the very beginning to avoid confusion later. And we also want to make sure that we define the consequences of not following those important processes during patient care regarding patient safety and employee safety. So you've got an infection control component of it there, but you've also got an OSHA component there. So the other thing too is breaking information into small chunks. Sometimes, again, if someone doesn't have a background in this, it can be really overwhelming when they're onboarding. So we want to make sure that we don't overwhelm trainees with too much information at once. So we want to break down the training into small chunks that they can digest. We want to focus on one skill and or task at a time to make sure that we build on that foundation. And then, again, avoiding overly complicated explanations. Use concise, direct language to ensure that all the trainees can follow along easily.
So let me ask you a question
Sure.
about real quick, because I love breaking it down into chunks, but I also believe that so many dental assistants walk in and I've heard they drink out of a fire hose immediately because somebody's been so desperate to fill that position. So do we manage expectations with the dentist or whoever it is to say we've got to bring this person along slowly rather than, speeding through everything?
Well, again, that's where sitting down as a staff and coming up with the questions, I would
Yeah.
say defining where people are in the process. If we have this new hire and they have no background versus we have this person that's been in the field for 20 years, it's going to take a little bit longer to bring that new person that's got no background up to speed. So I think, yes, making sure that, again, not just clear communication with the new hire, but amongst the staff is going to set the tone. The other thing is when training, and I've learned this the hard way a lot with dental assisting, teaching in a accredited program for a lot of years, is encourage questions. There's no way to know if they're retaining the information or understanding the information if you don't ask questions. So we want to create an environment where the trainees feel comfortable asking questions and then foster open dialogue and be patient, as this shows that you've invested in their learning and ensures that they fully understand the material. And different hires have different lenses of learning. And so it's very important to always make sure that you verbalize your expectations in your training, but also demonstrate. And this could be done with like step-by-step guides. And all of these things can be put into hiring, onboarding, like written documents. So you're not having to recreate the wheel every time. An important thing is to make sure that when you're training a new hire, whether it's someone with a background, a formal background or not, every office is different. And even OSHA requires site-specific training. So having written resources to supplement the verbal training and demonstrations is imperative. So things that could supplement are step-by-step guides to your office protocols, charts, diagrams. You can assign short videos, checklists. And this also allows any dental assistant, whether it be someone with a formal education or someone with experience, to refer back to important information for your specific office when they need to. And so, again, I recommend putting together a new hire packet that includes standard operating procedures and policies for the office. Include a signature line in these packets for the trainer and the new hire, and this will communicate the expectations for carrying out the tasks, but also provide a method of accountability. And it becomes an agreement to their terms of employment. So these competencies should go into the employee file and be reviewed at least annually. And sometimes they might need to be revisited if there's a breach in infection control or OSHA practices. And I think it's important too from the trainer's perspective, whether it's the office manager or the dental assistant that's providing the training, to understand that it's kind of a living document, that it will need to be edited and updated depending upon how successful it is. So we always want to improve. So if something doesn't work, don't keep using it. We want to make it better.
I love that. Just real quick, I love that, and I love that we're checking in on it regularly, even if
Mhm.
it's annual. I love the fact that something isn't just sitting and collecting dust, and that,
Right,
as you said, it's a living document. That's fantastic.
right. And then also, we want to make sure that we offer, some people don't like this, but we want to offer constructive feedback. And this is an opportunity for further training. So after observing a trainee in action, we want to provide immediate constructive feedback. We want to focus first on the strengths, and we want to focus on the areas for improvement. And be specific. We want to offer specific suggestions for improvement and reinforce the goals of the practice. One thing that I think is really important too, this would be number 7 in my tips, is that we want to engage in role playing. We want to use role playing exercises to simulate real world scenarios. This allows staff to engage in critical thinking so that they can build techniques in a controlled, low pressure environment and gain confidence in those skills.
I love that. And I also think that there is so much that a wall comes up anytime you say role play.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that once people actually get into it, they realize how valuable it can be. And I think that that is such a good thing.
Right, right. Yeah, and it also allows, once the trainer has done several of these, it allows them to see if the trainee actually does understand what is being asked and if they are able to critical think. So one of the things that we've talked about throughout this conversation, Kevin, is maintaining consistent communication. And so number 8 tip would be keep the lines of communication open. Even after the formal training period, regularly check in with the staff to provide ongoing support, answering questions and addressing any issues that arise, and follow up often. They may come to you and say, I realize that this was clear to you, but it is not clear to me. And so that's an opportunity to make it clear. And then number 9 goes along with that, creating a positive learning environment. We want to foster an environment where mistakes are part of the learning process. And so being a positive and supportive trainer to the trainee provides an atmosphere and encourages staff to learn and grow without fear of judgment. And if we don't foster an environment like that, then when mistakes are made, it doesn't allow them, or they may think that they can't come to you and tell you that there was a mistake, and then it could get worse. So we want to make sure that it is part of the learning process. And that's where we build and consistently grow our training opportunities. And so once again, I would just say make sure that the training program is a living one where we edit and update the training program based on feedback from the trainees and new information from regulatory and various other organizations. I mean, I've been doing this again for 30 years, and I can tell you I'm consistently trying to simplify and update information from which I teach to ensure that my clients and my students are able to understand and apply the information accurately and practically. So don't be afraid. Don't get stuck. Don't be afraid to update it.
I love don't be stuck. And I also love don't be afraid to fail because
Yeah.
I think so often we're worried about making a mistake that we walk on this razor's edge and then we make a mistake and it seems much worse in real life or in our heads at least than it is in real life.
Right. And I'll just kind of touch on where we started. If there is an infection control breach, we don't want that to be like kept swept under the carpet. We want to be able to bring that to the forefront and address it because these are people's lives we're dealing with. And so we, again, want to create a culture of safety where people feel comfortable coming to us and saying, hey, I screwed up. Like, how do we fix this?
And one thing I know happens in so many dental practices are that there are dental assistants who have had a lot of experience. They've been in the industry for a few years, which is fantastic. Teaching somebody brand new, and sometimes you have different generations as well.
Oh, yeah.
And I think trying to get rid of that generation gap and focus on something that brings you two together is a critical thing.
Yes, and I also think that one of my experiences when I go in, if a doctor hires me to come in and they've had assistants from different generations and different educational backgrounds, and the doctor's trying to start with a fresh, clean slate, well, we've always done it this way. And I really encourage people to get out of that mindset and realize that no matter how old you are, I mean, like I said, I've been doing this for 35 years. We all can learn something new.
Those words, anytime that somebody says we've always done it this way, oh, that just makes my skin crawl.
I
I'm gonna
know.
be honest with you.
It's
Yeah.
my
It's
least
such a
favorite
red
comment.
flag.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
So
Hey friends, I'm heading to Nashville this year to speak at Accelerate the Dental Revenue Workshop. This isn't just another event. It's packed with real strategies, real solutions, and the kind of insight that actually moves your practice forward. If you're ready to grow, lead, and finally make your systems work for you, grab your ticket. Use my code KevinH to save $150, and I'll see you in Music City.
Well, Monica, this has been great. And I love that, again, you reached out to me through LinkedIn to say this is something dental assistants need to know about. And so I'm so appreciative of that. And I want to make sure people know, how do they find you? How do they reach out if they've got questions or maybe want you to elaborate on one of those suggestions that you've thrown out there today?
Yeah, so my email is Monica, MONICA .tntc@gmail.com. My consulting business is True North Training and Consulting, and my website is www.truenorthtrainingandconsulting.com.
And every bit of that's going to be in the show notes. So real easy
Great.
for you to find, real easy for you to connect with Monica. And again, I so appreciate not only you coming on today, but again, all the ways that you've impacted the dental industry through the years, especially dental assistants. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Kevin.
Absolutely. And hey, thanks to all of you for listening to this episode. I hope you picked up a nugget of knowledge here, because whether you're a new dental assistant and you're hoping to find that forever home, or whether you're a more senior dental assistant, shall we say, who maybe has to train that new one or is looking to fill that position, I love some of the tips that Monica threw out today to make sure that what you do in your practice not only makes sure that your practice is growing, but that everyone is happy and fulfilled as you move along that path as well. Till next time, it's Kevin Hearing, founder of Dental Assistant Nation, as always, signing off and wishing you nothing but success ahead.